Hi everybody, welcome to Painting for Pleasure. I'm your host Tony Visco, and we're gonna do a boat scene over here. Got a small boat in here, or probably not a small boat, but a boat at a dock, and the background is going to be all in silhouette, sort of like the sun's going down, sun setting. So that a lot of this land area and mass over here is going to be set back. It's not going to be in much detail. We'll do our best. Here's the black and white shot of it. I don't know if I'm going to do it this dark yet. I'm just going to play around with it. This is the boat. So it's not one of those classic beautiful line boats. I think the boat is a Sea Ray, I think. Probably something like that. But it's got that round edge. And anyway, we're going to put it in there. Got a little guy over here that's holding on to the dock post. And some trees. Night, the sun is going down, so we're going to deal with this nice and bright over here. So let's first of all I'm going to put in some light values. Let's take just some water first of all, and we're going to just wet this. I'm working on Nasha's 140 today, and we're going to tone this all down a bit, wet it up, so that we can get a feel for where we're going to go with all of this stuff. And I'm going to create a sky area here. We're going to do some sort of warm stuff in the sky. So we're going to take a little bit of cadmium orange and run it down into the sky area over here, and maybe a little bit more. Add a little bit of warmth in this area here. Basically what I'm doing is I'm adding I'll show you. I'm taking Opera Rose over here and a little cadmium orange over here. Now normally I wouldn't be using cadmium orange too much, but I'm going to use it in this setting, in this depiction here. Add a little bit of cobalt blue to that, and we'll just start to bring some of this sky down, maybe on the purple side. Kind of cool, just bring it all in here. Sun is going down. The sun's going to go down, so we'll make sure that that's going to happen. We want it probably a little grayer up on the top, and a little bit brighter. Let's go back to my Opera Rose over here. A little bit more interesting. Going to come down in this area. Big shapes. Start with sort of large shapes. We'll gray this down a bit as we come down here. Probably some clouds. Just roughly. Let's come in here and get some of this cast blue in here for the back. Once again, let's work around. I'm going to work around all of this. Actually, what I want to do is come over here with this brush and start to work around this area. I'm going to leave this. I've got some lights coming up down here. We got this white area in here, radar coming down in this area. So kind of interesting. We'll do some nice light area here. We have a dark. We're gonna work right around all of this in here. So let's get a little bit more brown, because it's going to be dark. around that pole. This is all going to be dark. We want something in here. Forgive me if my head's in the way. Hope it isn't. Okay. In this area here, darken up that. And come up here and we'll darken up this. And I'm going to bring that down. Let me get a little smaller brush. Some of this in here. Take some of this. Gonna come around here. We got have our guy working. Now the thing is, I'm not gonna make him white necessarily. I'm just sort of working around him right now, leaving him white right now, but he may not end up white. I doubt it very much. That's my column. The column's gonna be down in here. So we have the boat rails. The boat rails are right here. All the rub rails. All right. Rail. That's the boat. We'll add a little bit of this stuff in here. This is all isinglass there. And down here. Okay. All right. So let's just come right around. All right. So what we're going to do is we're going to just bring this all down. And as long as this is still wet, as I see it's still puddly or whatever, I can work this right down here into the dock. And then we can just bring this over. Let's get a little bit more sort of interesting values in here. A little bit darker in some of these areas over here. It's a sunset, but it's not going to be a classic sunset. That is to say, I'm not going to do it orange and red and whatever. We'll put it in there. That'll all be part of it. But what I want to do is just make sure that we get, this is the dock, underneath the dock here, the boat. Okay. A little bit more of that pretty upper rose in here. In some of these areas, look at this, how nice. Let's bring this all down. Upper rose, yep. Lovely colors, lovely, beautiful. All right, so we're going to go from warm, let's get some warm values over here a little bit more, I'm going to take what I'm doing right now is I'm taking a little bit of my French ultramarine blue and adding a little bit of New Gamboge to it, so we get sort of a greenish cast, because some of this is going to end up a little bit greener. I want to go from a cool feel to a warmer feel in some of these areas. And we're going to end up coming up here and adding a little bit more of my burnt sienna to that grouping. Come up here, and we're going to start to get a little bit more tree-like in my approach. That is to say, the tops of the trees. Okay. And we're going to get a little bit more bluish. Let's get some cobalt blue in here. We want some of this a little bit, change this up a bit. Okay. Watery right now. It's all going to be sort of running in this area. All right, let's get a little bit more of this stuff over here. Let's go. A little bit of blue, opera rose combination, make that purple. As we come down into this area here, and come across. We want to just make sure that this is darker in this area here. Okay. A little bit of opera rose again. Opera rose is kind of a nice color for all of this stuff that's going on. Gives it some fairly decent interest. And especially up in this area here, because what's going to end up happening here is the sun is going to be stronger up in that area. So I'm coming in here and just getting some of that to flow. Now, I want it to flow. We're going to end up probably, I have a feeling, and I know I will do that, end up with some blossoms in these areas, but I think that they'll work out pretty good. You know, if I go back, you know, it's funny when I paint this stuff, I got a lot of little dots up here that we're going to have to sort of wash out, I guess. Or maybe just leave them there. We'll just make them birds later on. We'll just probably a flock of birds at night. This is very apt. All of this stuff here we're apt to get because of the water flowing in there, and that was sort of starting to get damp. You know, it's lost its glisten, so that would be considered a damp area. And when I put water in here, we're going to catch a little bit of those blossoms. Okay, so brown, more pigment than water right now for that area. So I'm going to take the water out of my brush. I'm going to end up picking up some more of my burnt sienna. And my cobalt blue. Okay, and we're going to come in here where it's going to be a little bit darker. Okay, take the water out of your brush. Cobalt blue, a lot of pigment. And oh, I'm sorry. Where was I? Start to come down into this area a little bit more. Okay. Darker over there. Smaller brush coming in here because I need to darken up a lot of this stuff in here. I see that we're going to bring this down into this area here. Need to darken that up. Now the problem I have is normally I'd pick this up and I'd be swinging it around, which I can't do because I'm on the I'm taped down onto this board, so nothing much I can do about that except to just hopefully we can just get this thing working. Brown, you know what I'm doing? I'm just adding darks in here. Brown blues, real darks. Okay. Fairly large shapes. I'm going to come in here now and take out and remove some of this with water. Lighten some of it up a bit. Okay, so we've got our general overall feel for the sky, what's happening over here. Nice bright sun. Take a little bit of this. Sunny. Okay. That should do it. Let me just accent this a little bit right here. Make that nice and bright in that area. Okay, so I want to come down into this area as well, the water. Same way, so we're going to end up again coming down and wetting. We're going to wet this. This is my water area. Again, let's get some of that nice bright stuff in here. Sunny. No, it's not sunny. You know what? The sun's going down. And there's a lot of interesting kind of areas where it's going to be nice and bright from the sun going down, and it's going to get darker. Certain areas. All I'm doing is I'm going back and I'm mixing my alizarin crimson, my opera rose, my cobalt blue. So we get some of this nice pretty purple stuff that's going on here. Create this wonderful effect of this streak sun's hitting this area here down in the water. It's going to get darker over here because the boat's there, so we're going to end up making these are going to be shadows from the boat. Okay, and we're going to have some shadows going on in some of these other areas as well. Add a little bit of red, turn this red orange, so we've got something that's seems to be very interesting going on in terms of the variation in values, variation in colors. Let's get this nice and, whoops, dark over there. Not quite what I wanted to do. Okay. All right. Have some very interesting feel for this whole thing. So we have water, we have our background, and maybe we'll actually have to add a couple of birds up there because of those dots, but we'll do that. We'll do that later on. So let's see if we can get a little bit more detail with smaller brushes. This is a kind of thing that goes fast. I know these videos are going to be, or theoretically should be, about a couple of hours. But when you're painting this kind of painting, you're moving along at a reasonably good pace. I can't go slow when I do this stuff because everything has to blend it together. There's a melding of just values and shapes that need to happen here while this is still wet. You don't want to do it when it's too dark, or too dry rather. It's important that you sort of pick this stuff up where you can. All right, so if it's got some value in here, then I can, and it's still on the damp side, you know, it's not wet, but add heavier pigment in here, I can sort of make this a little bit more interesting. Bring a little bit of this tops of those trees a little bit more interesting, huh? Same thing over here. All right, we got some dark, so we're going to just deal with larger shapes to give me the feeling, the illusion. It's the illusion of trees and the shore. Over in this area here. Again, what's happening right here? We have the hull of this boat. Here, rubber rails coming down this way. Okay, that's the bottom of the boat. That's the dock of the boat. And we're going to take a little bit of dark value. Again, and run it in there. Right down to the area down here. So we have our boat sitting in the water. We'll make, once I get this basics in, all of the basic colors that I want in there, what's going to end up happening is we're going to end up doing, I'll model this a little bit more. But I definitely wanted to get down into this area. Excuse me. It's not that. Let's add some some more darks in here. That's where my boat's going to be. Heavy pigment. All right. Reflections in the water. Maybe a little bit of reflection there. Now, before I get into the nuances of all the little stuff that's going on up here, what I want to do is take and lift some of this out. Wet the brush, take the water out of the brush. Right. Reflections. Okay, nice and slow. How about over here, same way? Let's get some of this in here too. All right. How about maybe some, we're actually going to probably put some darker marks in here too. Let's bring these over. Okay. Darker marks now going in, but guys. I'm just taking a little bit of this darker cadmium orange. Bring it in there, the sun's hitting that. And we're going to do a little bit of the same thing right in here. Make that a little bit glowy a little bit. I'm going to put a dark tree in. So let's start working with my smaller brush. Okay, nice, real heavy. Nope, very. I'm picking up a lot of pigment now, and very little water in my brush. In this case, okay, and we're going to end up coming down into this area here. Actually, make another one. A couple of trees that are right there. Actually, I'm not exactly sure what's going on back there because it's too dark, but it doesn't really make any difference. I'm mixing right now French ultramarine blue and burnt sienna together. Because we're going to end up making the underside of this darker right there. Darker there. Let's do a little bit of that nice bright stuff over here. Right in my dock. We're gonna just barely see this stuff. We need to make the change, but just barely. Let's take the little bit of my opera rose again, and we'll put a little bit of that in there. Come down in the back area a bit. Add some there, and perhaps maybe get a little bit of, let me get some clean water here. What I want to do is I want to come in here with some fresh color, more vibrant color, which will help make it anyway a little bit more interesting. I'll pick that up there. We can actually use a little bit of opera rose along with maybe some, we'll just make this a little bit darker over here. What I'm doing is I'm just adding alizarin crimson, which is super dark right there. I'm going to add a little bit of alizarin crimson right out here too, underneath the eave of this building here, and probably make some spots. Again, not sure whether or not what they are. It doesn't make any difference what they are. They're just interesting shapes that'll help you to create the illusion of Yeah. Let me get some a little bit more water in here. A little darker down in this area here. Just a tiny bit darker. Gotta be careful because you know what happens is my arm gets into this painting. Little shape there, a little shape here, just sort of working that around. And I'm going to end up coming down here with a little bit of my, change this up a bit, a little bit of yellow ochre right there, okay. Yeah, good, like it so far. I like what I'm doing, I like what I'm seeing. We're just going to make this a little bit darker right in here. Okay, fresh water. Looking pretty good from my perspective. It looks pretty good right now. I mean, we just do need a little bit more work on this. I'm going to come up over here, and we're going to come up with some limbs, branches of those trees. Make some of these a little bit darker. All right. Good. Dark. Can we do it? Let's just get a nice dark streak. Let's do some dark streaks. Okay. We'll do this a little bit right here. Okay. How about a brighter, get some fresh water here. I think what I'm going to do is, I had a guy in here, but I think I lost him, so I'm going to bring him. I'm just going to give me some dark areas in here, and we'll let it go. Have to cover that up because I actually lost my figure when I was putting a lot of that stuff in, so I'm just going to leave it go. What I'm doing now is just cleaning up this here, so it's a little bit more interesting. Okay. And down in this area here, of course, we'll do the same thing over here. We got a light area back in here. Water. Let's just put that water back in. There you go. All right. Isinglass. That's all isinglass. Isinglass. So that you can see through it in the boats, so that we can. Plastic glass is what it is. Let's get a little bit of blue. A lot of water, a little bit of this blue we're just going to put in here. Give it a slight cast to it. And I think what we'll do is, let me take my rigger and work out a few more details. This will have to work with this one here. Okay. The sun's got some glow to it. Lots of cool light. Alizarin Crimson and Opera Rose I'm going to put in here. This is my Opera Rose. Make this a little bit brighter. Okay, now Alizarin Crimson to help. Now the Alizarin Crimson is dark, so it's basically going to be we're dealing with the darkness of the tree itself, the leafiness of the tree. And we'll add a little bit of blue to that. little bit of dark. Some of those areas are going to be darker. Probably what I'll do is take some of this beautiful upper rose here and dump it into certain areas over here, so it looks like the sunlight is hitting it a bit. All right. Maybe a little bit more of my dark blue to make some of these even darker. Don't want to do too much of that. Okay, there's that. And you know what I need to do is we need to take very light marks on this. My rub rail, not my rub rail, but the rail of the boat. A little bit there, and we'll just do a little bit of shadow under here, shadow over here, shadow in this area here and here. Not a shadow, but just part of the boat. Okay. What else do we need? Maybe some darker lines coming across. And I might just take my wider brush, let's see, Makes a little bit more darker marks. Maybe a little bit more darker marks down in this area, a little bit of alizarin crimson. Again, I think we're okay. You know what? I got a mark out here. Maybe I'm making. Let's see. A little bit of maybe a church steeple. Whoops. Ooh, hold on for a second. We don't want water. We want to make this less, just light. Don't know what it is, but it's back there. Okay. What happened up here? I don't know. We'll have to get some clear water. Take that out. So let's get a little bit of clear water here. Or my, just see if I can remove that. Get rid of some of this stuff here. And I'm going back to this. How dark? This is not dark enough yet. Okay. It's stuff, guys. Just putting stuff in to shapes, give it some interest. I'm thinking probably close to it, if not right on the money yet. I think probably that's pretty much. I'm going to to darken this area up here a little bit more with my big brush. But I'm gonna take and blue it up, I guess. Blue it up, make it cobalt blue. I'm gonna come in here a little bit more with my skim coater. There you go. And we'll just do a little bit of that tint right across here. Good. All right, I'm going to leave it alone. At this point, we'll just come back in a bit and just double check, make sure everything is okay. And we'll put one over here. Ah, too wet. Son of a gun. Too wet. All right. Love to put a guy in there. Unfortunately, I can't do that right now. Okay, so I think we're going to call it a painting. I'm your host, Tony Visco. This is Painting for Pleasure, and it should be fun to do. Going forward, should have a good time doing it. Again, I painted this one on Strathmore. On Ashes 140 cold press, and it worked out pretty well. Thanks. Bye-bye. Have a good one. Till the next time.